provider, which is Virgin Pulse. So is a digital platform where we want to converge all the contents that will make our life better. So, how to hydrate, how to eat, what is the perfect tips for nutrition, how to have a successful life in terms of, balance, how to approach your mental stress, how to exercise, and et cetera, et cetera. So we built a program that hopefully will allow everybody to receive some level of information, some level of tips, and exchange experiences. Because what is most important value of this new platform is that it's designed to engage people and to play together. So maybe some of you already have something similar. Maybe you're already using it, so you can accept challenges, you can throw a challenge to colleagues, you can participate to programs, and etc. So the whole purpose is to create a virtual community among ourselves in DHL, where we can talk about ourselves, not just as a professional, just as individual. And I think this is one of the best things we have designed and conceived in the last few years. And I like you, all of you, to join us. I can't remember exactly where Greece is, first wave and second wave, because the approach, since we need to include 4,000 people, more than 4,000 people, is going to be through phases. So when Greece and Southeast Mediterranean will be involved, please, join us and be active, because, the concept is that we don't have Alberto CEO and Lefteri, managing director, or Alistair as a CFO. We have individuals. So there is Alberto, there is Lefteri, there is Alistair, there is Vicky, there is Stellina, there is Andrea, there is everybody, and everybody has a role to play. Providing tips and sharing his or her passion on life. So that's very important. Please join us. The result that we want to achieve is, again, to be confirmed #1 place to work worldwide. We believe that this is not just nice to have, but is the pillar of our own strategy, to have the recognition from the people so that they can express themselves in the best way possible. I think it's going to be tough to maintain this #1 position. It's not an obsession I have. I think at the end of the day, what is important is that we provide the right answer to the expectation of the people, whether we are #2 or #1 or #3. Honestly, it's not going to change my attitude and my action. You see here that we have some good results. Greece confirming #1. Congratulations. It's fantastic. Some other country over here improving, some other not really improving. So we shall see in a few weeks, a month, what is going to be the final ranking. Again, it's not something that I die for. I'm more concentrated on the actions that we require to improve every day. Thank you. Next slide. Because everything we do for people is to make our company better. And therefore, what we want to create is a grow mentality. If we believe as individuals that we can grow, we can learn, we can become better, probably this will drive the same evolution for the company. So, grow about the company is not a mystery because of a lot of reasons. 2022, we are challenged in terms of volume growth, in terms of shipment. So all over Europe, we have most of the countries under pressure in terms of shipment. I guess we will see in the next couple of days, but I guess it's not something new for you guys. It's something that you are experiencing every day. I think it's a combination of something that we couldn't necessarily foresee, at least not at this magnitude. The crisis, the military crisis in Ukraine definitely was out of the radar. Nobody was expecting that, as well as the sharp reduction of B2C volume probably went even behind what we wanted to believe. So that is something that is depressing our volume, as well as many other factors, including still the crisis of COVID in China. Altogether, I want to bring, though, a very positive feedback to you, in the sense that if we are excluding the B2C, if we are excluding the Russia crisis, actually the business, even in shipment, is growing, B2B. So our core business, and maybe Alistair can confirm, please ask any question detail afterwards, if we look at the B2C element, in shipment, we're still growing. That means that the strategy that we initiated years ago in Europe to focus, or let's say refocus ourselves, both B2B and B2C, and having like a two engine supporting our growth is really working. The B2B is in a good shape. We are taking market share in most of the country, according to the latest market research that we've done. And I think this is very, very important that we keep the attention going forward, because this is the source of the growth. You know, taking care of the customer in the industrial manufacturing area is probably less exposed to the volatility that typically we've seen in the B2C arena. So B2C is, of course, a big opportunity and will continue to be an opportunity going forward. More than B2C, let's say digital platform, digital evolution. But the, let's say, traditional economy with the manufacturing and everything is a reality that we need to follow going forward. What is important is that through this strategy, we can compensate part of the shipment decline or shipment challenge that we have. As a matter of fact, the weight per shipment is still growing very fast in Europe. So the net impact of shipment going down and weight per shipment going up is that still, even the last month in May, our revenue per day is growing, which is nice. I don't think we have a lot of industries where, despite everything that is happening, our revenue is still improving. It's not a huge improvement. It's, of course, much less than we were forecasting in the budget, but I think it's still nice to see that we are able to mitigate the impact coming from all the different challenges. I talk about the focus on the B2B. Here you see a couple of, let's say, strategic pillars that we have in our commercial strategy. I guess all of you are very familiar with that. Sell like never before, I think is very important, and I think is dovetailing perfectly with the strategy of keeping attention on the manufacturing and B2B. Even more so now, when all the supply chain are changing and the customer looking for solution, having ourselves in the best condition to project our image in a different way and supporting the customer, proposing solution and becoming the trusted advisor of the customer is a mentality that I think we will really capitalize going forward, because I think it's evident that not just COVID, but the speed of change in many dimensions of our society in general is putting a lot of pressure on the customers. They need to change a lot of things. And if we can approach our customer not just selling a product, but providing solutions and being able to listen to them and to articulate solution, I think this will probably be the best way to secure our success going forward. Of course, Gatekeeper 2, as I said, is a great success. And let me spend a second on this MPA journey. You know that the whole concept of first choice and continuous improvement is very close to my heart. I do believe that this is not just a program, it's the way we are doing our job every day. More or less like I described before with the Fit for Work, or the new platform that we're calling in general the well-being platform, is a way of interpreting our job and our life when we are working together. The same concept to me is first choice or continuous improvement, whatever you want to call it, or continuous learning. Alina is giving us this new, let's say, articulation and dimension that is not about improving necessarily, is about learning, which will come eventually with an improvement. And again, please don't look at that as a program or something that you need to do tomorrow because somebody's telling you to do on the top of the things that you're doing normally, but I will love to come to that conclusion, a way we are thinking every day, a way that we are approaching every day our job. Profit and cash is a challenge. We are below budget, and that's something that we need to be aware. Yet, I think that we need to be happy in Europe because we are doing everything possible to mitigate the impact coming on our commitment towards the financial market. Productivity is improving significantly. especially in the last 2-3 months, it's quite evident that everybody is contributing and trying to do better and leverage the continuous improvement, continual learning for the benefit to increase in productivity. I believe that this trend is still not releasing all the benefit to the P&L as it should be. So we are expecting not just the productivity to continue, but also, to change these into, cost advantages. What I can tell you that is going to be tough for not just Europe, but for Express this year to match budget. In the context of the global network, we're lucky because some regions, for instance, US and Americas, are less exposed to COVID and, of course, to the military crisis in Ukraine. Therefore, they're still growing and they are ahead of budget. So they're doing a great job, and this is compensating a little bit the difficulties for the rest of the portfolio. But it's going to be tough, for all of us. So with the global team, we're trying to find ways and means to secure the budget is very important. Not just because, we want to increase the wealth of our shareholder, but because I believe that as a private company, we want to maintain this attractiveness so that we can keep investing, in our network. This is the demonstration that we need to continue investing into the business. We have invested, I think, in the last few years, something like, including aviation and hubs and terminals and et cetera, something like 3 billion in Europe. And we want to continue. And to continue to do so, we need to convince the shareholders and the financial market that investing into this company is worth it. And that's the reason why we are so focused and committed to mitigate the impact on these difficult years. The positive thing is that in the overall Deutsche Post DHL, things are doing much better for our colleagues, especially for DGFF. So the broker industry is booming. The lack of capacity in the market is allowing them to sell their capacity to very high price. I think it's the first time ever I've seen their P&L bigger than the Express. So in the last quarter, they have scored better than Express, which is itself positive news. Is another stimulus that we have to catch up with our colleagues. But I think it's also confirming that the strategy of Deutsche Post with this concept of family of divisions is very important because when the division like Express is under a little bit of a challenge, other division can compensate and vice versa. In the past years, we've been on the compensating side, so Express was doing very well, and we were helping the other division with their challenges. Hopefully, this will be, the other way around this year and the next year, and that's very good. So overall, I think, yes, we have challenges, but we know what we're doing, and the outlook, especially for Deutsche Post, is not that, let's say, concerning comparing the Express situation. Last slide about the service and the quality. Transit time are very solid. You see over here, 96% overall. Europe, I think, is very, 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 I would say, even outstanding, given the difficulties. Probably we don't realize that through COVID and through the challenge now, specifically with China, we had to redesign completely, our network. On the top of that, the Russia crisis imposed a lot of constriction to our colleagues. Just, one episode that I'm not sure how much is, let's say, public and known for everybody, but with the Russia crisis, we had one provider of big, airplane that we're using for the intercontinental connectivity, and 9 of these big wide bodies, each one 120 tons, had to be, landed, and we couldn't use it. So I think overall it's something like, 900 tons every day that we lost. You can imagine the level of change that imposed in the whole network. So this is one episode. So this 96%, I think, is something that needs to be really celebrated. We have seen numbers that are much more, let's say, comfortable, like 97 plus and etc. But under these circumstances, I think 96 is really, really good. As a matter of fact, You see over here, we remove some of the +1 in our transit time. We have only one market now where we left, or few markets where we have the +1, one in Europe and a few others in the network. And we will continue to review where possible so that we can catch up with our historical commitment to the market. What we have seen the last few years through the whole journey of Brexit and the changing regulatory environment in Europe is that quality, yes, is highly dependent on our physical ability to move goods around in a very efficient way, but it's not sufficient. More and more is clear that we need to have the same level of sophistication also on data quality. And hopefully you have seen in the last weeks and months a lot of attention coming about data quality, not just in terms of stabilization of the IT platform, and I need to recognize that the colleague did a very good job worldwide to stabilize the platform, but also the quality of the input coming from the customer. And let me spend a second over here because this is vitally important in the sense that it's not an IT topic or it's not even an ops topic. It's a business topic because everybody has a role to play to ensure that the data coming from the customer is in the best condition possible so that we can leverage all the technology and all the enhancements that we invested in the last few years. Because without that data quality, based on the next regulation that are coming up in next year, it is not even possible to do business. So it's not just a way to ensure quality, but is business critical because the new regulation coming up for the next year are imposing a perfect data set coming from the customer. So everybody has a role to play. Please help the colleagues everywhere in the world to make sure that our origin country can provide the best data quality, because if everybody can do the same when we are receiving here in Greece and other market in Southeast Mediterranean, we can enjoy the same level of, let's say, data completion. Few words at the end with our ESG strategy, meaning environment, social, and governance. I think we need to be very proud of belonging to a company who is so serious about doing the right things for everybody. So doing the right things for the environment, doing the right things for the people around us, for our vendors, for our customer, and also making sure that everything we do is standing the highest moral standards. You see over here some of the example of this strategy. This target probably is important also to underline once again, are not just theoretical targets, meaning they will assume the same level of dignity of any other target, meaning service or profit or cash or DSO whatsoever. The management will be measured through these targets. So for instance, in terms of environment, the electrification of the fleet is going to be part of our bonuses, as well as women leadership and all the governance that we're putting. So this is to say that, again, it's not a nice to have, but it's something that will change the way we are working. Yes, it's complex, yet I believe as a big company, very, let's say, public and very prominent in the eye of so many people, we have an obligation to demonstrate that, we are contributing through all these elements. Also because the new generation, I see here, a lot of very young people are demanding that the company they work for is a company that they trust, is a company that they believe is doing the right thing for themselves, for their families, and is bringing forward the whole agenda in terms of ESG. So maybe among the other things too, I want to touch base, electrification of the fleet. I'm very proud. In Europe, we are definitely ahead of any other region in the network. We pushed very hard in the last 2 years. Yes, of course, one of the challenges coming with the current environment is that the vans are not delivered, despite we ordered the vans. They're not coming because of the crisis of, the semiconductor are not available. As you know, the cars are not produced. Yet, I believe that we have a very, very good plan. We are, I think, still in a positive mood and thinking that by the end of this year, we will be around about between 15 to 20% of the electrification of the fleet, which is great. The big obstacle will be, going forward, the part of subcontractors that we have in a large part of Europe to convince our, let's say, partners that is important to invest into a clean operation, but I'm sure we'll find the ways. And the second is women in leadership. I believe this is going to be probably the toughest of all the targets that we have, not because we don't want to, but because to change this trajectory, it will take a little bit more time than we think. But I believe this is something, probably one of the most important challenges I have to face for my future career in DHL, because this is about justice. This is about really doing the right thing for society. We have a lot of women in our company, and it's absolutely appropriate that these women, they will find the representation also in the management at each level. So we're not that far. 2025 is very close by, and we have a commitment to have at least 30% of our management ranks with women, and you see over here we are 26. So, it's a little bit of effort. Rest assured that the management team, starting from the board in every country, in every cluster, and etc., this is a very important target. In a lot of situations, we are already above, and therefore, it's proven that it's possible. And I need, again, the collaboration for everybody, because women, they need to feel comfortable, to have an aspiration, to apply for jobs, to be in a position, to come to operation where historically we don't have a lot of representation. So again, a good challenge for all of us. It's not just me or my management board. I think is the opportunity for everybody. So very good, probably a little bit longer than I thought, and now time for you for asking questions. Thank you for your attention.
So, thank you, Alberto, for sharing the results, sharing directions, and for your energy, to which we are count on for the next 45 minutes. We have also already gathered some questions from colleagues here and the rest of the Southeast Europe countries. But of course, in case someone of you wants to ask something directly to Alberto, he's more than welcome to do that. So please allow me, thank you, please allow me to start the Q&A session with
open, very willing for people, hence sessions like this morning, where you all have opportunity to ask questions to Alberto. He's always open, he's always very keen to hear. He listens to the opinions of people, and then he takes the appropriate action, but he really listens to what people are saying. I think in terms of his intelligence is second to none, to be honest with you. I'm at the moment, both the finance director and the HR director, but I can assure you, when I come to talk to numbers with Alberto, there's nothing that he can't pick up on very, very quickly and work out a good strategy to go with them. And I think for me, very good is he's very linked into, he talked today about ESG, about our environmental strategy. He really thinks through what we're trying to achieve as a business, and is really thinking not just about today, but about the future in terms of what legacy, perhaps at some point in time, Alberto wishes to leave behind. Okay, I guess those are all the really good things. I guess I should also probably say, in terms of, as a person, obviously he demands the best from all of us, which is normal. When you've got a boss who's at a very high standard, he also wants to make sure that he has a team which is at a high standard, which is supporting him. So,
thank you.
There we go.
Yeah, well, the last bit, maybe Andrea, you would like to add some observations since you're working with me so closely.
Okay, so I think one aspect that I really enjoy from and he really and really to keep learning and keep developing every day is not always easy, but I can guarantee that none of us would grow as fast if it wasn't like that.
Very good. But probably they want to hear something less, let's say, yeah. Yeah.
He can be impunctual sometimes, but it's more this unpredictability. I've worked with him for 15 years, I wish, for 15 months, and I still cannot predict what is going to happen. So I think that's something I can say it's a bit challenging.
I'll add to that for 1 second. The agenda, so especially for Vicky today, when we have an agenda, that's just a suggestion to Alberto of what we would like to do during the day. The reality is usually very different, but the agenda is a suggestion. So I would say that's probably one of his faults in terms of organization.
Good, thank you both. Very
Thank you
good.
both, really. So moving on to the next question. How about sharing some tips for achieving work and life balance?
I don't think I have a tip or anything. I like to suggest that this concept of work-life balance probably is a little bit obsolete in the sense that it's suggesting that you have a work and you have a life, meaning I'm enjoying when I'm with my family and with my friends and with my children or with my dog or whatever, and then I have to work, which has been the paradigm that we've been working, at least my generation, forever, right? So I can't wait to start the weekend because, I need to rejuvenate, I need to restart, which, is physiological. What I'm aspiring, actually, is something better than this. So what I'm aspiring, as I said before, is that we are living while we're working. So we are happy while we're working. We are enjoying while we're working. We are exercising while we're working. We are, improving ourselves while we're working. And I think this is, again, not just a nice to have, or is nice to have for me, but for young people, I recognize is the way they want to live. I have a daughter who is 32, and I know very well her mentality. She's working very hard, but she will not compromise that the work can be less than exciting or self-fulfilling or, an element of happiness needs to bring always. So that's what is, our ambition, that working for DHL is not just, get paid for a good job or learning new things, but, is a kind of a lifestyle where you go to work and you improve yourself, not just professionally, but as a person.
Great, thank you. So the next question comes maybe from a football player or a cheerleader. And I think you might get this question a lot often. Are we going to receive an invitation for Lommel or somewhere else in Europe?
Or somewhere else. Hopefully, yes. Of course, everybody is very eager to resume all the good things that are part of our history and our DNA. Euro Soccer or Employee of the Year. Going back to my opening comments about safety and COVID, personally, I feel the responsibility to provide a safe environment where everybody can really be, at ease, his, without being concerned of getting, a disease or worse. So we're very cautious. What I can tell you is that the next event that will resume will definitely be Employee of the Year. Alistair has done an excellent job in finding new venues because, believe it or not, the new challenge is that there are no venues in Europe able to host us because a lot of businesses went bankrupt, they're forced, they're going out of the market, and a lot of demand is coming. So we are busy organizing EOI, and this is definitely now in the agenda. Next week in Athens with the full European board, we will fine-tune the dates and the contents and the venues and everything else. So that is coming back. On the Euro soccer, I think we need to be a little bit more patient. I am concerned because I think bringing 5,000 people all together with the level of, I call it intimacy and vicinity, that we have experienced in Normal in the past, I think is a challenge. I think it is a challenge. My vote will be to wait and see. So let's do the Employee of the Year, which is a smaller community this year, see what is the outcome of that one, see how COVID will come the next wave, because it's certain that COVID will come October, November. I think this is going to be a constant in our life. All the things I read and all the report and all the input and information I'm receiving for medical doctor is that, for the next 10 years, probably COVID is going to be a constant in our life. And therefore, I think we need to be realistic. I want, to go back to the old days where everything was, easy and nice, but reality is something that we need to deal with. So, the intention is there. I wanted with my colleagues making sure that everything we do is affordable in the way that not hurting people. That's my concern.
Thank you, Alberto. So question number 4 is, are we going to meet our targets this year?
If the target is financially, it's going to be a challenge. The latest forecast that Joe Joseph and the GMB submitted to the corporate is still aiming to reach our, let's say, target for this year. And we need to be conscious that we've been very lucky and very successful and very good in the last few years, so that we always exceeded the target. I think it's the first time in 5 years or something that if we're lucky, we can get to the target, not to the maximum target, is going to be a challenge. Still, we're working very hard, and that's the importance of everybody contributing in any ways and means to mitigate all the pressure that we're receiving from different parts, because we want to maintain this target. This is financially. In terms of service, I think we're in a very good shape, and I think we will be able to deliver the target term of service. In terms of different elements like cash conversion, we're in a good shape. And we're talking about the ESG. The electrification is at stake because of these difficulties on the market, but I believe that if we take the long-term view, like 2025, 2030, we're in a good shape. Honestly, the one that I feel less comfortable is this women in leadership, where I think is requiring extra, let's say, activity from our side, because 2025 is very close by, and I can tell you moving 4 points is a hell of a challenge.
Great. Thank you. I think we would all like to know how DHL Express has helped our colleagues in Ukraine and Russia so far.
So I can give you a little bit of background. Maybe Alistair can help us out with more details. So it's difficult. It's difficult because I don't think it's a crisis that will last weeks or months. I think it's something that will last years, unfortunately. It's one of these things that is changing, the landscape for, quite a while. The challenge that we have is that more on the Russian side, I would say, more than Ukraine. So what we did basically is to secure for all our Ukraine colleagues their job position and their salary. and we allow the people who decided to leave the country to be in the best position possible to receive support, and where possible also jobs. And maybe Alistair can elaborate a little bit on that one. On the Russian side, it's difficult. It's difficult because it's evident that how the two blocks, if I can use this terminology, are moving. Basically, the legal environment that we're operating is in conflict with the legal environment of the colleagues in Russia. Meaning, for them to be in line with their law now in Russia, they cannot comply with the rules and regulations that are valid for the Western countries. And that is becoming every day more and more difficult to deal with, because if they have to apply 100% of what we are asking, from the managing director to the board, they are at risk to go in jail. So we need to find a compromise every day to make sure that, yes, they can help us with, for instance, the sanctions, or to do the screening of the individuals that is being blacklisted in Europe, but they need to ensure minimum elements that are safeguarding their own safety and the ability for the company to continue going forward. So the business over there is significantly below the historical level, to the point that the board has decided to incentivize colleagues to leave the company. Last week, 800 employees decided to leave the company, 850 to be precise, decided to take the package that Anna and the board offer for the people to leave, because the volume, of course, are significantly below the historical trend, and there is no sign that this will resume any soon. So we're working with Anna Klinskova and the team to understand how we can, let's say, secure the future for the Russian business going forward. It's going to be difficult to find solution, but we're trying. The corporate board is supporting us to find the most creative ways to ensure a future for these colleagues. Maybe Alistair, a little bit more on the colleagues in Ukraine. Do we have the microphone?
Thank you. So yes, just to give you some idea about the Ukraine. So we have approximately 380 people who work for us in the Ukraine. As Alberto said, obviously since the war started, the business has been closed down. Of the 380 people, approximately a third are ladies. The other 2/3 mainly cannot leave the country, because the Ukrainian government have said for men, they must stay in the country, and a number of them have joined the armed forces to fight. Of the ladies, 54 of the ladies have left the Ukraine with their families, with their children, where they've crossed the border, mainly into Poland, mainly into the Czech Republic. We've done what we can to support them, both by helping to find accommodation, helping to find money for them. Many people leave with 1 or 2 suitcases, so it's quite sad in terms of what they've left behind. A few people have asked for jobs. So far, I think we're about 10 people have asked to work and to find jobs in Western Europe. And we're trying to facilitate that to get the people to the countries where we have the jobs. The others have not asked yet, mainly because most of them are thinking that this is quite short term. They're hoping that they're going to be able to go back to their families, to their husbands in the Ukraine. So they're hoping that they go to Poland, they'll be there a few months, and then they'll be able to move back to their homes. Obviously, we need to see whether that's going to be the reality, but we're trying to do whatever we can as a company to support them. And that's probably about it.
Thank you, Alastair and Alberto. Would you like, sorry? Okay. And we all know that this war also has impacted our business. So if you could please share with us some, whether numbers or points, areas that have been affected.
Yeah, it's a big impact on the business because it's not just the P&L of Russia and Ukraine, which vanished, basically. And by the way, Russia is still break-even. So they did a miracle, I guess, to preserve a little bit of viability for them. But it was a significant P&L. On the top of that, of course, Russia, Ukraine as well, but Russia was one of the highest growing destination for a lot of markets. On the top of that, as I said before, there is the impact coming on the supply chain, meaning a lot of capacity we have in the air was provided by third parties with Russian property, so it needs to be grounded. So the P&L impact, Alistair, if I'm not mistaken, altogether for Europe is something about like 300 million for the total. So if last year, so you can make the math. 300 million is a lot. The point is that what I can tell you is, we are able to recover a portion of that one. Probably we can recover half of that through many ways and means, but it's going to be very difficult. So we need to be a one-off. This is a permanent shift in markets. So it's not just this year that we need to find the ways, but I think the challenge on all of us is to find new streams to be able to replicate the portfolio that we had before, because I think Russia will be in this situation, and Russia and Ukraine will be in this situation for a long time.
Thank you, Alberto. Next question is the European network ready to handle the inbound volumes that will come from China?
Say that again.
Is the European network ready to handle the volumes that will come from China?
If the European network is ready to handle?
Yes.
So if the question is, are we concerned that and this week all the restriction is being removed, are we concerned that when the demand is coming, we will have like a wave of inbound into Europe? Yes, we are concerned. Because typically what we have seen during COVID is that immediately after the crisis, the volume is spiking very fast and very quickly. But I think we have demonstrated that in Europe we can cope with that. What is giving us comfort is that the design, the infrastructure that we built in Europe in the last few years is extremely resilient. One of the elements that I think we need to be very proud of is that we build this point-to-point network through the different hubs by which we have overcome the historical limitation of having Leipzig as a bottleneck. So now we have multiple hubs in Europe who can be connected through international, but also inside Europe, so that if one market is under pressure, the other hub is helping out. And this flexibility that we built is extremely resilient. So even in the worst COVID situation, we have demonstrated that we can cope. I think we are ready for the wave to come. Hopefully it will come, because we need a little bit of upside on the volume.
Thank you. So moving on to a hot question.
Yep.
As Southeast Europe, we are all wondering why there are no more Balkan countries to this new structure.
Okay. The point is, we have always to deal with a little bit of, let's say, balance. We decided to change a bit the organization. The idea was, okay, we have two clusters. One is Central Europe, and the other is South Mediterranean, whatever it was called before. And I wanted to leverage the capabilities of these two, let's say, important center of excellence, let's call it that way, meaning the management of these two clusters was ready to support new countries, and that's the reason why we decided to leave Russia. Like, with hindsight, after the war, that was probably the right decision, even more so, but the original idea was not about, anything else, rather than saying, Russia is big and is growing so fast that is requiring the full attention of the team in Russia, and all the other countries, we have Central Europe, and we have on a let's call it a cultural element. So it's not like the Balkans one side and Central Europe on the other side. It was more on the capability of the two teams, in the sense that the team of John Cornish in Central Europe historically has been always bigger, with more people around, is a true cluster, meaning they have, differently from what Lefty has been organized historically, they have like a board, like a cluster board with people who are fully dedicated to support the other countries, whereas all the other countries belonging to the cluster, they have their own respective board. Here, Lefty made, a kind of a mirror, plus the other, in a journey by which Lefty has to organize differently this cluster to be able to cope with the new complexity, and then we will evaluate the situation, in the, let's say, medium term, whether this will allow different, solution. What I believe is the upside of this